In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 7 outdated job search tips out there on the internet that are killing your chances of getting more job offers or even landing your dream job. Number 1, you need to tick all the boxes to be qualified to apply for a job. One of the most stupid advice out there is that you need to tick literally 10 out of 10 requirements in the job description in order for the recruiter to give you a call. Now, that is completely BS and wrong. Because if you fit into 100% of the criteria of what the recruiter is looking for in an ideal candidate, then you are overqualified for the role. And I'm going to give you me as an example. My current role as a team leader here in New Zealand required, according to the job description, 8 or more years of experience in utilities infrastructure. Guess how many years of experience I had? 4.5. That is it. And I was still eligible. I still got to the final interview stage and I was offered the role, and I'm going to be starting that role in 2024. So you do not need to listen to this advice that you need to take 10 out of 10 boxes of what a recruiter is looking for. Instead, take my golden advice and see the job description and see if you fit 60% of the criteria. If you meet 60% of the criteria, whether it's interpersonal skill set or technical skill set of what a recruiter is looking for, you are the perfect candidate for this role and you should hit that apply button. Number 2, your visa status is going to determine the kind of roles you're going to get. While I understand that your immigration status can cause a lot of limitations in terms of the kind of roles you can apply for or the kind of companies you can apply for, because sometimes some companies and some roles require a certain kind of clearances, especially when you're working for government projects or in cybersecurity, or if you're working for some confidential work. And I get that. But literally 90% of the jobs out there require you to just have a basic degree and maybe some sort of experience or understanding of some technical softwares or skill set, which everybody has. So if somebody is telling you that your options are as limited as your visa status, literally block them from your life, because that's not the kind of negative energy you need in 2024. Now, I'll give you me as an example. I came to New Zealand as an international student. I was on a student visa, and then I later, after graduation, went on a work visa. And I was able to get into one of the top construction companies in Australasia through my immigration status. I was eligible for the same role that citizens here and residents here were eligible. Why? Because I worked on my leadership skills. I worked on building my resume, my portfolio, my branding in the 4 years here in New Zealand to come off as a stellar candidate. If you let people get this in your head, you're going to develop imposter syndrome. You're going to have a negative feeling or a negative outlook when you're going into your job search, and you're going to automatically project those insecurities, project your anxiety in job interviews, and the recruiters will be able to see that. I understand that there may be some exceptions to this rule, but generally the kind of degree you're doing as an international student overseas, you will be able to land similar roles in the same industry you've studied for. So don't worry. Number 3, just copy paste the job description, paste it in your resume in white color, and the recruiter won't know. 70% of the mid-sized companies and 90% of Fortune 500 or large-scale companies use something that is called an applicant tracking system or a hiring software that helps them facilitate hundreds of job applications that they get to filter out quality candidates that they're looking for to interview. I get that. We all have gone through applicant tracking system or hiring software at some point in our lives. And I know that there is a huge fear-mongering about ATS out there in the markets because there is not enough transparency on what ATS is, how does it work. So job seekers don't understand how it works, which is why they're scared. And I get that. But the advice that you should copy paste the job description in order to outsmart ATS to be able to get shortlisted for the interview is the wrong advice. And here's why. The biggest reason is that ATS, yes, will create similarity, and we will be able to read all the words that are in white hidden behind in the resume to show you as 100% similarity. But when the recruiter is going to read your resume, they will be able to see that you may not be fully 100% eligible for this role, Or the recruiter may be able to see how ATS is getting the similarity and figure out that these words are not even mentioned in a resume. And that will tarnish your reputation as an individual in the industry. And that will also make you go in a blacklist that you never get hired by your dream company again. So don't make this mistake. Absolutely do not do this. Number 4, you need to stay in your job for at least 2 years. While I understand that staying in a role for 1 or 2 years may show that you're loyal, you're committed, and you're a team player, and you see projects through, I get it. But we all know that sometimes, or most of the times, that cannot be the case. You may have started as a graduate at a salary of $50,000, and after 1 year, you can see that you may be eligible for maybe getting roles that are more in $65,000 range. Now you know that staying with the current company is not going to get you that jump. So the best way to get that jump is actually go looking out, and that's what most people do. But if you stay in the same company, which may be toxic or not the right role, or you may be feeling stuck, or you may be feeling bored in your current role, and you just stick in that company for 2 years just because some idiot out there on the internet has told you to stick with your job for 2 years, you're going to not only affect your mental health, you're also going to affect your peace, you're also going to impede your career and set it back another year just because you're following some idiot's advice on the internet. I am a living example that you do not need to stay in your job for 2 years. My first graduate role as a site engineer with CPB contractors, I worked in that role on a project for 1 year, and I left that project to get a literal pay bump or $15,000 the next year. And why did I do that? Because number 1, the project was finished, so I felt like my work was finished. Number 2, I was getting a better role, higher pay, getting a promotion in my current title. And why will I not do that? If you can expedite your career, do that. If you find the right role that will lead to your professional development, then do that. Or let's say you may be in a toxic job and it's affecting your mental health, get out of your role. Don't stick with a job just because somebody has asked you to say, or just because you're obliged to say. Number 5, don't think about money when you're starting your career. While I understand that as graduates, you may not have a lot of wiggle room to negotiate a salary because you don't have work experience. So that is your one step in the industry as a young aspiring professional, and I get that. We all have been there. But I don't think this advice is sufficient because we all have rent to pay, we all have bills to pay, we may have additional responsibilities. As an international student, you may have loans, or you may have to send money back home, or whatever the reason is. Yes, at the starting, money, people or older people, especially from our parents' generation, are telling you, don't put money in question, just look at experience. I don't think that's the right advice. I believe that money should 100% be in question, because if you're spending 40 hours a week for the next 1 year in a graduate role, you need to make sure you're getting paid as much as your colleagues are getting paid, or maybe your classmates are getting paid once you graduate. So very, very important is to have an understanding of what a graduate salary looks like in your industry, so you can negotiate it professionally and nicely in an interview without sounding desperate, and also explaining to the recruiter why is it you're asking and why you're worth it. Also, let's say in your first graduate role, you took whatever the first salary was on the table, $50,000, whereas your peers were getting paid $55,000. So what that happened is that created a $5,000 deficit, and that $5,000 deficit is going to exponentially increase as you progress in your career. So it's really, really important that you negotiate what you're worth, and you also have a good understanding of what base salaries look like for your roles in the industry and in the country you're applying for. Number 6, it's okay to lie on your resume. Now, this is something I see 99% of the people make out there. And I have helped many immigrants, international students, and local people across the world with landing their jobs. And one of the biggest trends I see is, hey, why can't I fake an internship? Or why can't I fake a work experience? They won't know, and this might help me get a job. I understand that recruiters out there and entry-level jobs out there have ridiculous expectations of what an entry-level role should look like and what kind of skill set you should have. And I completely don't agree with that. But I feel that if you lie in your resume, you are most likely to get caught during an interview. And I'll give you an example of that. So for the past 1 month, I have been interviewing for team leader or senior level roles in the engineering space here in New Zealand because I am leaving my job to look for a better role and higher pay. In the past 12 interviews I've been, all the interviews have been led by department managers who have read thoroughly my CV. And in the 12 interviews I've done, all the hiring managers or the department managers who have been on the interview panel have read each and every single bullet point of my resume and interrogated me on what I've written and why I've written, asking for an explanation to see whether I am lying or whether I've actually done it. An interview is a space where you cannot lie because you might be asked some questions about your resume that you don't see coming. And if you don't have proper explanation or evidence or projects to explain on what is written in your resume, you'll be caught, and that is going to tarnish your reputation as an individual in the industry. And believe me, the industry is very small. Word travels faster. So it's really, really important that you do not lie on your resume. You do not fake an internship. You do not fake a work experience. Stand up for who you are. Make up for your missing work experience to volunteering, by getting involved in the community, by taking up projects, or even doing an unpaid internship if you want. Connect with a local company, creator, entrepreneur, whoever you follow. Do an internship with them to build that bridge. Don't lie on your resume. Number 7. Go to the big city. They have more opportunities. They pay well. While I understand that living in New York or Melbourne or Sydney or Auckland might be glamorous, but a lot of times I hear this advice: go to the big city, go to London, go to New York. They're going to be bigger opportunities. They're going to be bigger jobs. They're going to be bigger money, bigger perks. And, you're going to live a flashy, happy life. Absolutely untrue. And I'll tell you why. I'm the living proof of that. I live and work in Auckland, which is the largest city here in New Zealand. While Auckland has many, many opportunities in the civil engineering and construction space, so the AKA the industry I'm in, there is also more competition. There are more people willing to do the job that I am doing for a lower price, which gives employers the leverage to negotiate you down on your salary. So for example, my last role as a development engineer with Watercare, I was not in a huge leverage space to negotiate my salary, and I landed up around $93,000. But if I would have gone out of Auckland to smaller councils, I see that smaller councils are actually paying way more money than maybe councils here in big cities are paying for the same role that I'm doing. Which is why this year, when I was changing my role to look for a senior level or a team leader role, I decided to avoid the big cities and instead focus on smaller cities and smaller councils, because I know there are less people migrating to smaller cities. So I'm in a position of leverage. I bring a great skill set and 4.5 years of experience, and I have good set of technical skills, interpersonal skills, leadership skills to take on a senior level role, which I would have never been able to get if I was in my last role. So if you're in a position that I was in, where you're bored of your job and you're looking for the next step up and get a promotion and look for a senior level role, my advice is also look in the smaller cities. Get out of the big cities, because there's going to be less rush and will give you more leverage. Now that you know the 7 most outdated job search advices out there and the things you do not need to listen because they are absolute crap out there on the internet, you know what not to do, which is making you one step closer to what you should be doing. If you're looking for advice on cover letters, then this video is for you. And if you're looking for advice on how to hack your resume, then this video is for you. I post one video every fortnight, going into more details about careers, busting myths, and also going into explaining each and every section of resumes and cover letters and how to write them properly with templates. So subscribe to this channel, because you are not going to want to miss this next video that is coming out. And I'll see you next time.